everybody, it's Dr. Sandman. This painting took me so long to finish. Not because I was working on it the whole time, but because I just stopped working on it altogether for months. So I started this last year, I think in April or May, and I just finished it now. It's July of the following year. And for, I want to say 8 months out of that time, I just was not working on it. And when I did work on it, it was like, it took a few days for me to get back into working on it. So this is the painting. You'll get close-ups of it, don't worry. And here's the speed painting of it. I will quit yapping out everything I had to say about it. I'll put in the voiceover. So yeah, this is my painting Justice. So this is my first card in a tarot series. This is the Justice card. I considered going in order of the major arcana, and then I just completely ditched it. So I'm starting off with Justice. I felt really called to do this one first. And what we have here is Medusa, or Gorgon. I consider this Medusa, even though this isn't how I envision Medusa. Holding the head of Perseus in one hand and the scales of justice in the other. Forgive me if I'm a little all over the place with explaining this. There's a lot to this, so there's a lot of detail and a lot that I put into it, so forgive me if I'm kind of rambly and all over the place. I knew that I wanted to paint this character to be bronze, almost as if they were a statue. And so to complement that, I made a violet background or a purple background. I wanted them to be in kind of a calm environment, a serene environment, to kind of symbolize how they have to be in a calm state of mind to make their judgment, as this is the figure of Justice who is kind of weighing the scales. I'm definitely not 100% happy with how it turned out, but I do very much enjoy the way it finished up. I like the composition a lot. My main thing is that I wish I did the colors a little bit differently. Mostly in the snakes. I like the snakes that I did and the colors that I chose. I just wish that I might have practiced the order in which I placed them. I don't like that I put a yellow one right at the top center. I feel like that disrupts the flow. But other than that, I'm mostly happy with it. I wish the anatomy was a little bit better. I wish that the perspective on it was a little bit better, and I've never been quite so good at backgrounds, so I always have room for improvement there. I do plan at some point to go back in and digitally edit it, though. As for the symbols that I chose to interpret, one of them being the blindfold that the character in the Justice card has, I'm going based off of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, of course, and in that deck, the person in the Justice card has a blindfold over them. And so I chose to, instead of a blindfold, make it look like their eyes were censored, especially seeing as Medusa, her vision, her stare turns people to stone. So I wanted to block out the eyes to have a reference to that as well as the Justice card. So I like the idea of censoring her eyes, to make this person blind and impartial in their judgment. This painting has a lot of personal themes as well. I'm interpreting it based on the original Rider-Waite-Smith interpretations as well as my own interpretations. So fairness, equality, balance, but also justice in receiving justice. So a lot of symbolism in the character of Medusa. And I chose blue lipstick because I have personal things about blue lipstick. It feels very empowering to me, and it especially feels to me like really having ownership over how you look and not catering to anybody. And that, like, having some kind of resemblance to Medusa's story, and of course in her lore she was assaulted, so it has that kind of significance to me. I don't know if that made sense at all, but that's what I meant. As you can see here, I'm doing an underlayer in cadmium yellow before I do the bronze. I'm just doing that so that there's no pieces left unturned, so it has kind of something to grip onto. As for the snakes and what they represent, I wanted them all to be different and unique from each other, and I wanted them all to represent a marginalized community or a group of people or a kind of person who is vulnerable in some way. And I wanted this figure or representation of Medusa to be kind of like redeeming, like she is bringing justice to those who have been wronged. And the different snakes represent different people. So one of them represents children, another one represents queer people, people of color, things like that. I won't be going through what each and every one of them means because there are a lot of snakes, but they all represent a different community. And as far as the pendant goes, she has a necklace going around her neck that is all cameos, and they all have different symbols of things that are harmful in some way. And I added a black border around them, or a black frame around them. In spiritual communities, the color black often represents protection, but also banishment and boundaries. So to me, having the black frame around these harmful symbols is like kind of withholding them, keeping them from causing even further harm. Also, I'm having them placed around the neck because in French culture, throughout all of history, beheading and severing by the neck is like a symbol of overcoming the oppressor, both with the Gauls before modernity and in the French Revolution, of course. I also, of course, love the association of Medusa with cameos. I don't know if anybody else associates them with her, but I do, because, you're turning onlookers to stone, and cameos are essentially stone silhouettes of people. And so on the scales, I put cameos of people who are also representative of people who have been wronged, groups who have been wronged. And I put them on the scales to show that they are receiving justice. And the symbols that I put on the scales, one is a statue of Perseus with broken arms, and the other one has an olive branch. The olive branch obviously representing peace, tranquility, working together, the idea of like offering an olive branch as a peace offering. And Perseus being the symbol of harm, of evil, given that he was the one who killed her in the myths. And I'm putting that there to symbolize balance of something peaceful, positive on one side, and something negative and destructive on the other. The head that she is holding is the head of Perseus, another kind of like call back to her original myth and showing justice in that way, given that in the original myth he beheaded her and now she beheaded him. And I struggled with this head quite a bit because I wanted it to be obvious that it was Perseus, but I wasn't sure how to make it obvious in my style. So at first, you see I have straight hair, and then I was like, well, he's Greek, and it's very common for the Greeks to have curly hair. So when I painted it in, I gave him curly hair. Also, when I painted in his face, I was afraid that I made him look too old, and traditionally Perseus is regarded as a younger man. So I added a beard and mustache to kind of hide the jowls that I gave him that made him look much older. And I hoped that like reduced his years. And then later on, I put a tattoo of a Pegasus on the side of his face to make it even more obvious that was Perseus specifically. I debated for a while giving her tattoos, and then I decided to go back in and add them. And they all, to some degree, represent either balance or justice in some way. I gave her knuckle tattoos that I really wanted to give her knuckle tattoos that said hate and love because, the balance of hate and love. And also, like, I think that's funny, like, the idea of someone having knuckle tattoos to say hate and love, that old trope that you see on TV. I thought it was funny, but I didn't want it to be so, like, corny, so I translated it into the Theban alphabet, so her knuckles do say hate and love. And under her rib, I have Egalite, no, what is it? Liberté, égalité, homosexualité ou la mort, which means liberty, equality, homosexuality, or death. And the sign on her stomach, I made the unicursal hexagram, which is a sign of balance, particularly in masculinity and femininity, but also just balance in general. And then I put other symbols that represent justice to me. So the peace sign, the anarchy symbol, the moon, as that it is a phase that requires balance, or requires about causes balance, and it pulls the waves. So I had kind of like droplets coming from her pelvic bone. Underneath that, I have the quote, "Doves will peck in safeguard of their brood," which is a Shakespearean quote that succeeds the line, "The worm will turn being trodden on," basically saying like the meekest, weakest, shyest of the creatures will eventually bite back if it's mistreated long enough. And then under that, I have these two kois chasing each other, kind of reminiscent of Tui and La from Avatar: The Last Airbender, which do represent balance, kind of like a push and pull. And I put the eye symbol over her sternum to kind of say, even though she is not partial, she is still not blind to the circumstances. She is seeing with her mind rather than her eyes. I also made her physically androgynous. I tried to make her face very androgynous with like the defined jawbone, but still the curvature that is more feminine. And then I tried to give her ambiguous genitalia, again to harken back to the concept of balance, something that is both masculine and feminine. I know that's not traditionally found in the Justice card, but it's something that really resonates with me, is having two quote-unquote opposites coexisting, commingling, things like that. I really like the idea of opposites working together, kind of like joined at the hip. And yeah, like dark and light, masculine and feminine. I feel like they're all interconnected and they're not as opposite as we perceive them to be. The idea of duality is an illusion, and I wanted to incorporate that in this painting. Plus, having a queer body or an androgynous or sexually ambiguous body really just felt very honest to me. And this card is about honesty as well, but like it just like artistically it felt honest to me. I don't really identify with quote unquote cis bodies, which what does that even mean? But you know, like what you would traditionally think of when you think of a cis woman or a cis man and what their body looks like. It doesn't feel honest to me. And this does, so that's why I interpreted her this way. I also wanted the representation of receiving justice or bringing justice to go beyond the the interpersonal issues of humans. So one of the snakes is actually meant to look like continents or Earth from a satellite point of view. And one of the cameos on the scale is actually just a paw print to represent justice being returned to or provided to animals who have, of course, been have had so much damage done unto them and still are not given the respect and rights that they deserve. Beyond that, the statue of Perseus that is in the scales, that also I've removed the arms, even though I'm pretty sure the actual statue for that has its arms intact. I did that to kind of show like a disarming for like, sorry, the pun. I did not mean for that pun to arise, but like but the disarming of something harmful, something dangerous, something murderous, that made sense to me. And while the scales do show something that is harmful and something that is peaceful, I did still want to kind of get rid of the actual ability to cause harm in this justice card. That was really important to me. other tattoos represented, I have this Celtic symbol on the arm. It's her right arm. It's going to be on the viewer's left. That represents balance. And then I have on the her left wrist, the viewer's right side, I have staff music that spells out ACAB, because obviously. I don't know what card I'm going to do next. I'm not really sure. I'm for sure not going to paint them all at this scale. I might do some digitally. I might paint some traditionally just smaller. But yeah, I don't know what the next one that I'm gonna do is yet, but I like this one. I just have to figure out how I'm gonna add the title to it. Here's some close-ups of the painting. Hopefully YouTube doesn't take it down. But yeah, each snake. Here's some of the tattoos. I like that guy, he's fun. Here she is, and here's the face. Oh, and Banks came to check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and leave a comment. I will leave links to all my social media in the description, and I will, subscribe, obviously. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.